9. Folding chair fiasco. If you're one of the many people who've never heard of a stuck fetish, it's a real thing. And it's how a 27-year-old woman from Ann Arbor, Michigan, named Sydney Joe makes money. In 2021, she created a video of herself squeezed between the legs of a seat of a metal folding chair for her followers. But fantasy turned to reality when she was unable to free herself and posted a panicked video on TikTok revealing that she'd been stuck for a half hour. She further explained that the chair was caught between her pelvic and tailbone, and that it was stopping her from being able to wiggle free. Commenters offered suggestions to Sydney, including dismantling the chair piece by piece to free herself from it. But she ended up having to call her local fire department, who tried and failed to cut the chair off her using bolt cutters. They ended up having to use the Jaws of Life, a hydraulic cutter used to free people from crashed cars. After they cut her out, she was able to step out of what remained of the chair. It got the job done, even if it left Sydney feeling more than slightly embarrassed. After addressing the disaster at hand, she answered viewers' questions, stating that she was able to slide her way into the chair, but couldn't get out of it. She went on to explain that the stunt was part of her longtime job as an online adult entertainer, and that it happened while she was working. Sydney later told BuzzFeed that her viewers paid around $2 a minute to watch her get trapped and then free herself. She said that she had never gotten herself into a situation she couldn't get out of, until the chair incident. Hey, there's a first time for everything. 8. Cramped chimney. When a 31-year-old San Diego woman got locked out of her family home during a disagreement earlier this year, she decided that she was going to somehow get back inside. First, she climbed onto the roof and threw objects from it. As things continued to escalate, someone called the police. By the time they arrived, the woman was stuck head first in the middle of the family's chimney. Speaking with the Daily Mail, San Diego Fire Rescue Battalion Chief Tommy Charpentier confirmed that the woman was trapped upside down with her feet sticking out of the chimney. Rescuers spent considerable time devising a strategy to get the woman out safely. She was in that position for roughly an hour before firefighters extracted her. After getting that far, they transported her on a stretcher from the rooftop to a waiting ambulance. She was then taken to a local hospital for a psychiatric evaluation. 7. Rosie Cole. College student Rosie Cole was enjoying some white Zinfandel and tequila with her housemates one night in 2020 when they dared her to squeeze herself into a dryer at their shared accommodation in Hull, England. By then, the coronavirus pandemic was well underway, and like many other people throughout the world, the friends were struggling with the boredom that came with life in lockdown and looking for ways to entertain themselves. The 21-year-old admitted before she even tried to climb inside the appliance that she thought there was no way she'd fit. But she managed to wiggle her way in, only to find that she couldn't get out. At first, the girls laughed about Rosie's predicament, but they soon realized that she was seriously stuck and that she needed help. She couldn't uncross her legs, and every time she tried freeing herself, the dryer tipped forward. After Rosie's housemates tried pulling her out with no success, she told them to call the local fire department, speculating that because they rescue cats from trees, maybe they were qualified to extract a college student from a dryer. When the caller reached emergency services, they asked how old the trapped person was. They probably weren't expecting to hear that she was a 21-year-old grown woman rather than a child. 3 firefighters reported to the scene, where they spent around 20 minutes freeing the trapped co-ed. Rosie later told Hull Live that when the firefighters arrived, they took one look at her predicament and laughed. Before they left, they opened the washing machine and said they were checking to make sure nobody else needed rescuing. 6. Liani McLean. Firefighters in Oxfordshire, England, received an unusual call in 2020 when a teenager got herself stuck in a baby swing at a park. Liani McLean and her friends were filming a TikTok video when the bizarre predicament happened. leaving her trapped in the swing for over an hour. Her mother, Charlie, told The Sun that she didn't realize how serious the situation was until she got there. Describing the ordeal as bizarre, she said that Liani was embarrassed when they had to call for help, but it had become clear that they weren't going to free the teen on their own, and that they had no choice but to summon firefighters. Charlie went on to say that the firefighters were amazing with how they handled the situation, and that they even took a humorous approach and cracked jokes. They managed to free Liani using dish soap, and she and her mother baked them a cake to show their gratitude. 5. Sinking in quicksand. In early 2019, 34-year-old Ryan Osman was hiking in a remote section of Utah's Zion National Park with his girlfriend, Jessica McNeil, when his leg became stuck in quicksand. After numerous attempts to free him, McNeil went on an arduous 3-hour hike to find help. She later told ABC 7 Chicago that the walk was so perilous that she nearly gave up hope several times, wondering if she was better off going back to her boyfriend so that they could at least spend their last moments together. But she managed to get to a place where she had cell phone service and dialed 911. A search and rescue effort immediately got underway as a winter storm moved in. The soupy substance that Osman's leg was trapped in was so cold that he started to think he would definitely lose his leg while awaiting rescue. Park rangers first found McNeil and began treating her for signs of hypothermia. Osman told ABC that the first rescuer to approach him told him that he should be dead or unconscious. By then, his leg had been submerged for 10 whole hours. When emergency responders finally freed it several hours later, it was too late to avoid the winter storm that was encroaching on the area. The rangers set up camp for the night and treated Osman's leg in the wilderness while waiting for the storm to pass. It was still snowing when a helicopter went out in search of the group the next morning. Visibility was limited, and a break in the weather didn't come until afternoon. Finally, Osman and McNeil were airlifted to safety, and they were both grateful to learn that they were expected to make a full recovery. More recently, a hiker became trapped chest deep in quicksand, prompting the Utah Bureau of Land Management to make a Facebook post warning visitors to watch out for quicksand, even in certain areas where the ground looks stable. 4. Confined to a claw machine. Damian Murphy wasn't too worried at first when he realized that his 3-year-old son, Jamie, had wandered off during a family outing at a children's game center in Ireland in 2017. Just moments later, however, he heard what he later described as a muffled complaint. He looked over and saw that Jamie had somehow climbed into a claw machine, which is equipped with a claw that players use to try grabbing up prizes. Jamie was distressed, despite being surrounded by toys. His family managed to calm him down, and he soon began looking at all the items inside the machine, while Murphy went to notify the staff that his son was stuck. Employees and an off-duty firefighter worked to free the little boy, who chose 2 stuffed dragons to take home with him. It was soon discovered that Jamie had climbed through a chute that's used to dispense prizes. And as it turned out, situations like this aren't entirely uncommon. In 2018, a 4-year-old boy climbed into a claw machine at a restaurant in Titusville, Florida. Emergency responders ended up having to pry the machine open. But luckily, the damage was minimal and the boy was unharmed. 4 years earlier, in 2014, a 3-year-old Nebraska boy vanished long enough for his family to report him missing from a local bowling alley, only to soon realize that he was trapped inside a claw machine. The vendor came and freed the boy, and even let him choose a toy to take home. While claw machines are regulated under gambling laws in many states, they often go unchecked by safety laws, which could perhaps explain why children end up stuck in them. Thankfully, it seems as though nobody has been seriously injured. 3. Escalator emergency. What was meant to be a fun outing turned to disaster in the blink of an eye recently for 11-year-old Lisa Cox during a trip to the movies with her sister and cousin. The trio were dropped off at a mall in California and hopped on an escalator on their way to the theater. On their way down, Lisa noticed that her shoe was untied and that the lace was stuck between the moving steps. She yanked it out and fell backwards as the escalator approached ground level. Lisa tried to pull herself up, but once again lost her balance and fell. This time, she got her hand caught in the moving rail. Her sister yelled for help while her cousin attempted to stop the escalator using the emergency button. It took several tries and help from a bystander before the moving stairs finally ground to a halt. In the meantime, Lisa's hand had gotten sucked further into the machine, and she was trapped up to her forearm. Rescuers worked on the escalator for an hour to free the girl, who was then rushed to the emergency room. Her mother, Lisa Roosh, told local station KTLA that she believes the button was faulty since the escalator didn't turn off the first time it was pressed. She said that the mall refuses to let the family see surveillance footage of the incident and that she plans to contact an attorney. The mall claims that its escalator was in full compliance with safety standards and that the emergency button performed its function properly by stopping the machine to prevent further injury. 2. Bathroom captive. Pam Babcock spent nearly 2 years in the bathroom of her Ness County, Kansas home. She was stranded on her toilet for so long that the seat adhered to her bottom side, according to CBS, which reported on the case in 2008. Authorities learned of Pam's predicament when her boyfriend, 37-year-old Corey McFerrin, called the local sheriff's office and told them that something was wrong with her. Deputies found the 35-year-old woman with the toilet seat stuck to her body and speculated that she had sat on it for at least a month, including while she slept. During that time, she developed sores and became stuck to the seat. Pam was taken to the hospital with the seat still attached to her body, after deputies used a pry bar to remove it from the toilet. Her time spent on the commode unfortunately resulted in a leg infection and nerve damage that threatened her mobility. McFerrin told authorities that Pam had refused to leave the bathroom for a long time due to a phobia. He said that he brought her food and water daily and encouraged her to come out, only for her to always respond by saying, "Maybe tomorrow." Before she got stuck to the seat, McFerrin said that she did move around inside the bathroom, but that she stayed in there 24/7. He was charged with mistreatment of a dependent adult, but claimed that his only wrongdoing was his failure to get Pam help sooner. In the meantime, Pam reportedly refused to cooperate with law enforcement and only begrudgingly accepted medical care. She petitioned the court for leniency in McFerrin's case. Thanks to her advocacy, he avoided jail time and received 6 months probation, but soon wound up behind bars on an unrelated charge. 1. Amari Dancy. After exhausting all the usual hiding places during a late-night game of hide-and-seek with her younger relatives in 2020, Amari Dancy decided to cram herself into the washing machine at her family's Woodbridge, Virginia home. She got stuck. One of Amari's cousins found her and called the local fire department for help. After arriving in the middle of the night, the rescuers introduced themselves and asked the teen how she ended up in her peculiar predicament. In the meantime, her aunt documented the cringeworthy ordeal on Instagram. Luckily, the firefighters managed to free Amari by removing the top of the machine. She later told NBC News that she was really worried about whether they'd be able to get her out of the appliance, and said that she was relieved once she knew she would soon be unstuck. In hindsight, Amari and her family reflected on the situation with humor. She said in a news interview that she was embarrassed, but glad that she was okay, and that all she could do at that point was laugh it off. Thanks for watching. Would you rather get stranded on a stalled roller coaster for 2 hours, or lose your spot at the front of a line to buy tickets to a concert that sells out in minutes? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe. See you next time!